Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today, June 17th edition. The Oklahoma City Thunder are on top of the Indiana Pacers 3-2 after a interesting, I don't know if exciting, Rico is joining us. I don't know if it's quite an exciting game, Rico, but game 5 in the books. Indy loses this one on the road. The Thunder pick it up. Good morning, how are you?
Doing well, doing great. Still think it's a pretty good series that we still have in front of us here, but we'll see what happens. But it's always great to be here on the show.
Yeah, well, there's plenty that we can get to. We can talk Halliburton's injury, his leg injury. We're going to talk a little turnovers, but the story of this game would be disingenuous if we didn't start there. Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams was incredible in this game. I think he ends with 40. He was doing what you expect your star to do. And what I cannot believe about Jalen Williams is that he's doing this in his third season with the Oklahoma City Thunder. It was This was incredible. I mean, this was an incredible night from Jalen Williams. Because he changed this series. Without the performance that he had, I think Indy comes back and wins this game. But it was Jalen Williams who just met the moment time and time again. It was extremely impressive.
Right there with you with Jalen Williams, and I think that this is exactly why you have to value draft picks, right? Because we talk about SWBA and we're talking about this draft stuff and everything else, but this is exactly why you need to have a GM that's locked in with the draft. You need to have scouts that's locked in to go out and get you a player like Jalen Williams. He's been the perfect complement to Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. And you talked about it just a moment ago, the tough shot making. Like, I don't know how many times he finished in contact. And it just, the way that he's able to do that, and then also, too, his jump shot and just getting to just the spots on the floor and just really rising up over the defense, man. It's been impressive to see Jalen Williams just take it to where he has thus far from year one to year three.
Look, I think I'm not trying to take away from last night, but Jalen Williams is the exact contrary to the rule of what I've constantly talked about of you take a young guy coming out of college, freshman or now sophomore in the to and through era. This kid spent 3 years at Santa Clara. His freshman year, he came off the bench in 11 of the 33 games, so he started 22, shot 35% from deep, very mediocre numbers, scored 7.7 points. By the time he graduated, 18 points, 39% shooter from deep, and then since then he has been a lockdown scorer for this team. 38 career percent, 3-point shooter, 20 points per game this season for the Thunder, makes the All-Star game. He was what you dream of in terms of your second star, right? I mean, you look around the rosters, and it's always, okay, you got the star in place, right? Who's your number two? Jalen Williams has been playing like a guy. He ends up with 40 points on 35 minutes. He's playing like a guy that you look at and you say, man, I don't know. This guy could be a number one elsewhere. I mean, these are his numbers in the finals. 17, 19, games 1 and 2. 26, 27, and now 40. The last 3 games, he has been, I would argue, the best player on this Thunder roster. I mean, I don't think that's a definite, but there's a case for it. And there was no answer for Jalen Williams in this one. The Pacers had their fair share of challenges, but when they needed baskets late in this game, and for the last 3 games, when they needed somebody to be particularly exceptionally effective, it has been J-Dub. He's been fantastic. The ability from him, they played it at the end of the first half. ESPN did the little shot chart, and it was an analytical dream. He had at that point 17 points. All but one of them was in the paint, and the one that wasn't in the paint was a 3, and he immediately followed that up with another 3. I mean, he was everything, and then he started adding in mid-range. if this is who the Thunder are gonna have, SGA in this version of Jalen Williams, uh, Rico, I think that they have to win now. They got to win Game 6, but we keep hearing, oh, dynasties are dead. The new SWBA dynasties are dead. Oklahoma City is sitting on the first passages of a dynasty. If this is what we're gonna get from Jalen Williams in the postseason.
Well, this goes into a great front office, and I'll go on record in saying this that I think that the Thunder have the best front
Oh
office
yeah,
in the league.
yeah.
And I mean, that's just my personal opinion, but
No, you're right.
look, and what's crazy about this, Marsh, is they actually have multiple picks in this
Yeah,
year's
it's not.
draft.
They're not done. Yeah.
I mean, like that's what's wild about this, and so I think you're right there. Just I'm right there with you. Excuse me, on the point because just looking at the way that these tax aprons are and things like that, and how this stuff is set up, it just looks like the Thunder are going to be in play for some time.
Yeah.
Okay, just with the way that they've set up with the financials and the picks and everything else, like this team is not going anywhere anytime soon.
We will have plenty of off-season talk, and we'll have you on, Rico, to do that once this is all said and done. But one thing that I think is going to be interesting because of the way that SGA and Jalen Williams have played in this finals, and notably the way Chet Holmgren has played, SGA is getting a max. Okay, he's getting the super max.
Hmm.
Jalen Williams is extension eligible this summer. He's getting the full max. And it's hard to build a roster with three players on a full max. And you know who's kind of almost hurting from all this, Rico? It's Chet Holmgren, who finished 9 points, 4 of 15, really inefficient on the offensive end, very impactful on the defensive end. That's where he has his value. But defensive value players do not make a bunch of money. I don't want to go down that road because that's not really the time for that conversation. But it is worth thinking, talking, noticing that you say we got to figure out the books. Like you said, all these apron rules. Do we really want a third guy? Do we want to make Chet Holmgren the third guy when we've got SGA and Jalen Williams and we can round out this roster in a billion other ways? J Dub is balling out. Let's go to though the other side, and this game was frustratingly decided by turnovers, particularly obviously Indiana in the first and the second half. So first and the fourth quarter in the game, they turned the ball over 22 times, and that led I think to like 29 points for the Thunder. It was something like that, but by my calculations, and this is just like remembering how many turnovers they had, I think they had 15 of those 22 came in the first and the fourth quarters. Those are the two quarters where they got outscored by a combined 13 points in a game that they lost by 11. The turnovers for this Pacers team, and you go back to game 2, you go back to game 1, which they should have lost. This thing should be wrapped. They should have lost game 1 of this series because of turnovers. Game 2, they had a ton of turnovers. The turnover bug, it's the curse and the blessing of this Pacers team, Rico. They play at such a pace, but that pace comes back to haunt them, and in the first and the fourth, and that was the deciding quarters, right? That's where this Pacers team lost it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the total there, they gave up 32 points all off their turnovers,
Is that what it was,
and
32?
that's yeah, 32 was the ending total. Just going back and taking a look here at the stats from yesterday. So yeah, I mean that's just you can't do that. Okay, and I mean in any sport that you're playing, when turnovers are involved, if you turn it over more than the other team, that's probably bad. And so especially in basketball, you're giving the other team maximum possessions in a game, and just the Thunder have shown you they're so efficient, they're going to make you pay. Okay, because even when you're contesting and things like that, SGA and these guys, they're great shot makers, and so
Yeah.
that has been the key to the series. And look, man, there's several times where you see Pascal Siakam's been loose with the basketball. You see that Miles Turner's been loose with it. You see Tyrese Halliburton has been loose with it, and so it's been wild to see that, especially with Coach Rick Carlisle, he's so disciplined, and so I know it's probably driving him nuts to see that the Pacers are turning the ball over like they've done this series.
Yeah, and so the Pacers got it to 2. It was 95-93 after Pascal Siakam, who, just as like a tangent, so Pascal Siakam got 12 points in the first 4 minutes of the fourth quarter. He didn't score again until it was 4:53 left. He got them all the way to 2, and then he just kind of wilted away. If we had 45 minutes and people wanted to listen to us talk for 45 minutes, I'd want to talk about that. But the turnovers, the Pacers got it to 2. OKC gets a bucket, and then it's a live ball turnover that goes down to the other end, and it makes it, I think it was 5 points there, so it must have been 99. So now it's 99-92. So an immediate swing back up to, 6, 7 points, whatever it was. That's just the microcosm, because these aren't shot clock violations. You'll hear plenty of coaches. I know Steve Kerr was talking about it in the Rockets series. You'd rather have a dead ball turnover, right? Because then it's not a spark in the opposite direction. Yes, there's a little bit of momentum shift, but it's not a breakout. It's not a 2-on-1 breakout. And at one point in this fourth quarter, when it really fell apart for the Pacers and it swung completely to the Thunder, 4 straight Pacers possessions ended with turnovers that ended up on the opposite end. I don't think it was a bucket on each time, but the Pacers have not been able to stop that, and that's what killed them against the New York Knicks when the Knicks rallied back in Game 3 of that series. It's what's killed them, obviously, in Game 2. It's what killed them here in Game 5. They have to do a better job. I think the Pacers can still win. I think this series is very much still alive. I think it can still go to 7. But in order for that to happen, Indiana has to do a better job of taking care of the ball, particularly, and I talked with Siege about this on Monday's show, particularly on the road. That was my big concern about this Pacers team. Were they going to meet the moment with composure, their same aggressiveness, their same attentiveness, or were they going to meet the moment with turnovers? And it was the turnovers, and that's ultimately really what did them in here. And it's disappointing because they are as good as the Thunder right now, right? I mean, you look at these middle quarters, Rico, they were right there. They couldn't get stops. They couldn't get over the hump. I mean, it felt like every single time they got it to 6, the Thunder would answer with a quick spurt. You cut out those first and fourth quarter turnovers, and the Pacers have to look at this game and say, we think we can win, and that's a game in which we got 0 made field goals and 4 points out of our best player, Tyrese Halliburton. We got Andrew Nemhard going 0 for 2 of deep. Obi Toppin, who's been a really good three-point shooter, going 1 of 5. Benedict Mathurin, who's been kind of high and kind of low, 2 of 11. You were in this game if you just take care of the basketball, Rico.
Yeah, you absolutely are, and it's kind of interesting that they lost this game too, because going into this, I saw a stat prior to tip there that it said that this team was 5-0 in the postseason after, I think, taking a loss. So they were able to respond very well after taking a loss, and for them to come out like this in this game. Now I wonder just where this team is going to be at here mentally into this next one, because generally they've responded well. They end up getting a win, but they got to go on a 2-game winning streak here if they're going to close out this series, because I tell you what, the Thunder, if they continue to get those turnovers like we're talking about here, it's going to be pretty much over, for the Pacers. And so you just can't beat yourself. And I think another thing, too, just looking at the quarters, the Pacers have to get off to a better start. And we talked about this. Well, not talked about it, but we brushed on it a little bit with Tyrese Halliburton having a bad game. He can't have the type of game that he had today, and he just really cannot have the type of series that he's having. He has to get something going where he has to get back and, I don't know, look at old film from the past couple series or something, but he has got to find it in these next couple games if the Pacers want to win this series.
Let's go to that, because he was hobbled or his minutes were restricted in the first half with a leg injury. There's plenty of coverage of that. This was a game where they needed more than 0 of 6. Now, look, he had 6 assists, 7 rebounds. He wasn't terrible. He took the ball, carried the ball relatively well. I mean, 3 turnovers for a guy that has the ball as much as he was. I thought in the fourth quarter he was really kind of careless with the basketball. But I think that's going to be a big thing to keep an eye on, is what does he look like with, I'm trying to look up, so the next game is on the 19th. So we've got today off, Tuesday off, Wednesday off, and we're back on Thursday. His health is going to matter, but that's really not been the problem for Halliburton, and I think that's the big separator for him right now. The separation between Halliburton, because, Rico, I don't think I'm taking a hot take here. I'm taking Jalen Will, and this is not just because he scored 40. I'm taking Jalen Williams over Tyrese Halliburton in a head-to-head matchup. Do you disagree with that?
You're taking who is it? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last part.
Jalen Williams. I'm taking Jalen Williams over Tyrese Halliburton, and it's not just because he
Oh
scored
yeah,
40.
absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. You're talking about a head-to-head matchup?
Head
Yes,
to head,
yes,
if I'm building a team, I want Jalen
yeah,
Williams over Now, Tyrese Halliburton, still a very good basketball player. But the
absolutely.
frustrating part of it is that Halliburton has not put together day after day after day. It's been great game, kind of mediocre. Great game, mediocre, mediocre. I mean, 14, 17, his first two games, and that 17 was a generous one in game two. 22 in their win, 18, 1 of 7 in game four. You go back to the Knicks series, 8 points in a potential closeout game five. Doesn't shoot the ball well in that game three loss where they crumble down the stretch. That comes in the aftermath of his fantastic 31-point game against the Knicks in game one. That's this challenge with him is, am I going to get the 31, the 32-point version, or am I going to get this one, which, again, hampered by injuries, but he has not looked good in this series, and they need him to be so much better than he's been.
When I look at the games where he struggled, it almost looks like to me, Marsh, he doesn't look at the basket. Like
Yep.
it doesn't look like he's going, at the rim. He's more so going side to side and kind of just looking to just distribute and everything else. Which, don't get me wrong, I mean that is one of his superpowers,
Yep.
which is distributing the basketball at a high level. But he's an engine for this team. And I think that when he's scoring the basketball, he's being aggressive. He's yelling at the crowd and everything else. Like it just takes the Pacers to another level. And I think that when you look at this game yesterday and you go back and you look at the tape, he just wasn't as aggressive as you want him to be. And
Yep.
so I don't know if it's the injury or whatnot, or the injuries, I should say, because he's dealing with a couple different things from what I'm seeing, whether it's an ankle and then a calf as well. And that can be very tricky. So again, I got to commend him for doing what he's doing and playing through it. But I just think that if he can go, he's just got to be aggressive. Because here's the thing, Marsh, 0 of 6, one would look at that and go, okay, he's having a terrible night or whatnot, which is fine. But for me as a head coach, I'd much rather you go 0 of 14, go 0 of 15. If we're going to go out, I want you to go out shooting the basketball. Okay, and so whether we're going to go out, I want you to either shoot us in or shoot us out of the game. Don't go into the game where you just get 6 shots. Like I got to see some more than that, and I think that that's where I met with him. His activity level on the offensive end just it has to be better. He has to get more engaged early.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of there with you. Like, I can understand why it's not just, hey, let's just chuck up shots to chuck up shots, but I think the 6 shots stems from two things: a little bit of a lack of, I need to go score right now. And Richard
Yep.
Jefferson talked about how early on in Jason Kidd's career, he was missing out on triple, as if I'm remembering the anecdote, that he was missing out on triple doubles because of scoring, and he made the leap. Jason Kidd did when he recognized the team needs me to score. That's part of it where you do. Halliburton needs to be looking for his shot more. Also, let's commend this Thunder defense, right? I mean, because they've got Dort and Caruso who are hounding. Jalen Williams is a stout defender on his own, and you look at the challenges in this series, particularly with just taking care of the basketball for Halliburton. Averaging 4 turnovers per game. It's been 3-5-4-5-3. He has not had a lot of room. And so I think if we're going to sit here and say Halliburton's got to be this, Halliburton's got to be that, I think there needs to be some recognition as well that the Thunder have a team that is not, to no surprise of anyone, especially somebody like Anthony Edwards who dealt with them, somebody like Jamal Murray who dealt with them. This team has the perimeter defenders to make life terrible for opposing point guards, but you still need more from Halliburton because he's shown he can do it. Game 3, 22 points, 17 shots, 9 boards, 11 assists. He did have the 4 turnovers, but he was aggressive. He got to his shots. He took and made a bunch of threes. That's the version of Tyrese Halliburton they're going to need if they're going to force this thing to go back to OKC for Game 7, and if they're eventually going to potentially pull off the upset on the road. They need more. They need an aggressive, scoring minded, because this team we saw it. This was almost the TJ McConnell game. I sat there watching this game, and McConnell makes his first jumper, and I say to myself, "Is this going to be the TJ McConnell comeback game?" And then I'm laughing as he scores 14 points, I think it was in the quarter, and it's like, "Oh my God, this might be." That can't be the situation for this team, Rico. They need more from Halliburton as a score, and the big question mark now is going to be, what's this leg injury? What's his status, and how impacted is he going into Game 6?
Yeah, I mean that is going to be the story of the game, right? Because everybody saw the rap and everything else, and him limping and stuff like that. And so I just think that he's going to have to use that energy to his betterment into this next game because everybody's going to be focused about that. But he's just going to have to lock in and be a better scorer. And it doesn't, to your point, it's not about necessarily chucking the basketball up, like just getting up shots that way. But now, okay, if you're not getting the shots because you're primarily being the ball handler, maybe we have to give it over to Nimhart or somebody else and let him work off ball and maybe start to attack off down screens and things like that and see if he can get downhill that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the one thing with the Pacers, they want to get out in space and they want to play with pace. And so let's see if we can unlock our guard that way. And because to your point, with Alex Caruso and Dort, that is just defensively with what you're facing with them. I mean, the Thunder looked like a genius by going out and getting Alex
Yeah.
Caruso the way that they did. Now I know that they gave up Josh Giddey, but man, to get Alex Caruso over here and get him healthy and the way that he's defending, he has been huge because that is exactly what this team needed. They needed somebody else to go along with Dort to where they could just constantly just kind of wear down teams that way. And so I think that what you have to do now with their on ball defense, you got to run some screens at these guys. You got to try to wear them down and make sure that you can get Halliburton into some situations where he's attacking the defense. And so that's something that I think Rick Carlisle will certainly look at. And I think that just as a team, they've got to be saying, okay, look, we got to make sure that we get zero the ball.
Yep. You got to find a way to get Halliburton the ball and make him impactful. Rico, a pleasure as always to have you on. We'll talk to you again next weekend or next week when it'll be full throttle into the SWBA postseason. Game 5 coming up on the 19th, as we could be staring at a new SWBA champion by the weekend. Otherwise, we're headed back to Oklahoma City for Game 7. Rico, thanks for hopping on. Appreciate you all tuning in here on SimWorld TV. Only place you can see the game, be the game.